Well, hey there, my friend, and welcome back to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Batten. Today, I'm going to share a little information on what I'm seeing successful retailers do this holiday season. So, I get the privilege and the pleasure, or I have the privilege and the pleasure of working with some fantastic shop owners. They are proactive, not reactive. And it hasn't always been that way. I'm going to share a story today about one of my clients and her real numbers and how we're working and how we just put a plan together and how you can do that too. It's just a matter of understanding what it is you want from your business and not letting it happen to you. And I know that sounds really simple, but my particular client that I was just working with today, and I'm going to share her numbers, her story, and all the things and how we did it because it's a real life example. And this is a retailer who's been in business for a long time. This is literally the first year. So her and I worked together in early August. She's been a client for a long time, so we've been working together for a while. But early in August, we decided, or she decided, we all decided, that she really needed to get this particular holiday season feeling more in control. Does that feel real to you? Like she just wanted to, like, things have been good, sales have been good. It's just been busy and chaotic for her as the leader, as the CEO of this beautiful business, this retail business that she has. It's just a lot. And at the end of every holiday season, they've had a fantastic holiday season. However, inventory is out of control, usually a lot more inventory than she wants. And when when everything comes in, all the expenses and everything comes in, it's just not the profit or the total that she wanted to have. So this year, we are using last year's experiences, or the last few years, all the experiences, so we know when things are going to come in and when they're going to go out. And we're taking and we're adding in what she wants to happen, like what we want it to look like in January when all the dust settles and everything happens and everything's put together. What does that look like? And we're going to figure that out for her. So, and I should say not just her, it's a they. It's two partners. So I'm just wanting to share this with you today. And the reason I wanted to share it with you today is I really want you to understand it's possible and you're capable and you've got this, but you have to know what it is you want. What do you want in January? If you and I are going to sit down and have a conversation and we'll be like, hey, friend, what do you like? What happened? Like, what do you got? How did it go? What do you want? What do you want it to be? Like, what would just make you so happy in January? So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've talked about, how I worked it with her, it's like an unstructured podcast episode. The takeaways from this, and I say this because I'm just going to share my notes and how we worked through it, because I just feel it's so important. So I'm hoping that this is helpful to you. All right, let's get to it.
Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life.
Okay, so I'm laughing because I'm like, where do I start with this? But here's where we start. We start with the end in mind. If you've been a listener for any length of time, if you've been a client, if you've been a friend, you know that I talk a lot about reverse engineering from what we want to where we are. It sounds simple, but it's not always that simple. And I understand that. So the first things first, you have to know what you want. And again, I am going to share that I have an entire program called the Holiday Success guide. It is so yummy and good. And I have clients like doing it while they're on vacation. I have clients right now like working on it. I have clients rolling their eyeballs right now because they have it probably printed out in front of them and they haven't done it, and they know they need to and they know they want to. So we have the inventory coming in and we have our plans and we know roughly what we're doing. I mean, if you've been in business in any length of time, you have this all done. You know there's promotions, you know we need inventory, you know you need your staff, all the things. The pieces are all there. But really, we have to figure out first what we want. That's the very first part of the holiday boot camp. I call it a boot camp. That's what it always was. But really, it is an entire guide with promotional guides in it, marketing guides in it, sales guides, numbers, how to be a leader during the holidays, like what you need to be planning for. It's all in there. Just saying, go grab it. If you're a member of the Inner Circle or my mastermind group, you know what to do. You know you have access to that. If you are not a member of my Retailers Inner Circle program or a coaching client, or you are not in the mastermind group, you can buy it on demand. Just go to wendybatten.com/work with me. It's all there. I'm doing everything I can to make sure you have a good year. It's just you have to have a bias towards action. But here we are. Okay. I'm going to assume that you're going to go grab that. But here's how we're going to implement it. We're going to reverse engineer what we want. So my particular clients, these two lovely ladies that I work with, they had a profit goal, not a revenue goal, a profit goal. There is such a big difference there, my friends. Listen to me when I say to you, you need to protect your profits. What do we want to have left over? Because we can make all the money in the world, but then it all goes out the door just as fast sometimes. So I work with one particular member of this group, so I'm going to call her she. She, of this partnership, I should say, they together came to me and they said, we want this goal. So they had a goal of a pretty significant high number that they want to have in profit. This is left over. So I'm going to give you their numbers. So they want $175,000 set aside at the end of the year. Now, this is a big number. It's a big store. It does lots of great revenue. I shouldn't say it's a big store. It's not a big store. Just they do excellent work and they work their marketing and they've been in business and they know their clients and she's doing the work and she's got an excellent coach. I mean, really, she's got an excellent coach. So that was my plug for me because I'm her coach. Anyhow, so here we go. She has $175,000 that they want at the end of the year. They have a current inventory level at around 400,000. She wants to have a low number of inventory. Like this is right now, this is inventories all in for holidays. She wants to have a low, like around $100,000 in inventory in January. This has been every year. We've been working on this and tightening this up. She knows what her average margins need to be by category. This is something that a lot of you don't know. So category by category that you're working through. So all the different things that you're selling, each one is considered a category. Each category has its own margin and cost of goods. Let's talk about cost of goods, right? So that's where the magic happens. We can make a lot of money maybe at the end of the year, but we're selling it maybe at cost if we're selling it at a loss. So she's planning for healthy margin like her cost of goods for each week. So we've planned out over the next several weeks till January, and we'll be monitoring that. So she's going to look at the sales trends that she's had over the last few months, over the last 6 months. So her sales have been trending up. Her revenue has been trending up 15 to 19% every month over month for the last 8 months. Yeah, 8 months. So she's planning in, she's weaving in that math. And, this is also a retailer who really isn't like, these two women do not really like the math. Like they don't like the math. I don't like the math. I mean, I like the math because it's fun, but I'm not an accountant either. But we need to know our numbers. This is one of our big CEO roles because this is how the magic happens. So the challenge is we didn't want to end this, well, not the challenge, but the goal, I guess, is we want a profit at the end. Doesn't want to end December with out of control expenses. Wants inventory to be under control. and wanted a clear path forward. Like we just wanted to put this all on paper. So we wanted to make sure, I guess I'm going to say it again, inventory, payroll, sales, expenses don't all get eaten up. This is what happens every year to a lot of retailers. Like it's just all of a sudden you're like, what even happened? How did our payroll get out of control and all of this thing? So we reverse engineered the whole thing. So we started with the end in mind. What do you want left over? We went through, we didn't do it, but she's going to take all this to her bookkeeper and have this work done through her bookkeeper, putting in expected payroll, putting in rent, operations, event budgets. How much will we spend? We can estimate that. We can estimate it, and we can help keep ourselves in like tiny buckets. I call them buckets because like the buckets, like we only have this much money to spend on payroll. So this is where we're going to be. Not always tiny buckets. I shouldn't say tiny buckets, but she's actually also working on percentage wise. So looking at like what percentage of the revenue do we want to, and she's always keeping it in that frame. I'm speaking ahead of myself. The words I'm trying to say are, what percentage of her revenue does she want to put to payroll? And how do we maintain that? So we can guesstimate. We guesstimate, like we're going to look forward, we're going to look through what she's hoping to have in for, and I know hope is not a strategy, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but what we're estimating and hoping her revenue will be week over week, and then putting the sales staff budget around that. And then we're going to be looking at everything week by week. So we're going to be planning like her events, and where do we see the red flags? And red flags, by that I mean like, where are we going to need a little more staff? Like, is there a bunch of inventory coming in this week? Is there a big event this week? Is there, those kinds of tweaks? That's how we're going to do that. So we figured out her profit. We're figuring out expenses. We're calculating the sales required to make those numbers. We're not looking at last year's numbers and just saying, hope I beat that by 10%. That's not what we do. If you've been listening to this podcast at all, if you understand anything about retail, about good retail, you know that we have to look at it. Last year's numbers are just reference numbers, so we can tell, historical data is just that. It's historical data. And yes, we want to beat last year's numbers. We always do. However, that's not how we figure out our sales goal. So I want to urge you to go have a look at the profit calculator. If you have not grabbed my profit calculator, I literally created this just for you so you could figure this number out. So we're figuring out our sales goal based on our profit need. Had a couple of podcast episodes about it. We've been talking about it for months. It is so good. Anyway, I want you to go grab that. Again, if you're a member of any of my programs, most of my containers have that profit calculator in it, especially the inner circle. So we want you to be in the inner circle. It's such a good place. I just want you to come and join us and hang out. But anyhow, that's there. So profit, expenses, calculate your sales, understand and plan your inventory. So do we have enough inventory to make that sale? It's like, I want to have $100,000 day, just zeros, friends, but I only have $40,000 in inventory. So we can't do that. So that was an extreme example, but I want you to make sure that you are planning your sales and you're planning your inventory to match. They have to match together. So, and then what we did is we're going to break it all down into weeks. So that's the framework. The breaking it down into weeks means we're dividing like all the remaining year into weeks, and we're going to put targets on that. We're going to line up staffing and buying and promotions, and everything is just going to line out week by week. There's 20 weeks, whatever, by the time you're listening to this, there'll be less left in the year. So it's not that complicated. We can do it. We can do it. You can do it. Why this matters. So here's the thing. This shifts her mindset. So we're just guesstimating. She's putting in her best education, her best guess based on historical data, based on what she wants, based on what's coming up, based on looking forward thinking, right? Forward thinking, putting her CEO hat on and making a plan. This is what we do on CEO dates, right? This is how we do it. So this will shift from reactive to proactive. This is why we do CEO date planning. This will give her clear weekly targets, quarterly target. Normally we're doing this quarterly or monthly, but she's getting really nitty gritty week by week. It's going to help her It's going to help her with her marketing, because we're going to look and we're going to say, okay, this particular week, these are the sales goals you have. Maybe it's going to be what are we going to do to make that money? What are we going to do to do that? So we're going to be adjusting her staffing. We're going to be adjusting marketing activities. We're going to be adjusting average orders. We're going to what do we need to do to make that happen? What foot traffic do we need? What conversion do we need? What do we need to do to make that happen? What needs to be true? That's my favorite line. What needs to be true? I have seen recently, and I'm just going to sideswipe and tell you another story of another client who just actually yesterday, before I recorded this podcast, sent me a text and said, okay, this was my sales goal last week, and it was a biggie, and it was there was a big reason behind it, and there were some big things that had to happen. And I'm like, you got this, you can do it. So I get a text and she said, not only did we do it, but in the waning hours before the deadline of her making that money for that week, she wasn't quite there. So what did she do? If you're monitoring and you're looking at your numbers and you need a certain number, a few pushes on the gas, right? So she sent out an email. She actually sent out 2 emails in a 24-hour period. She did an extra live. She does social selling, so she did an extra surprise bonus live for her people. She followed up with some people who had inquired about some products, and guess what? They all bought. And that extra little push, a little bit extra social media, it made those sales. It actually blew her out of the water. She made a lot more than her balance or her goal. I share this with you because this is what this particular client will do. Now that we have the goals, now that we have the numbers, now that we know, we can monitor week to week. We can look back and we can say, what was our inventory at? What worked? What didn't work? And this is going to be a weekly thing. This is her CEO date now moving forward. What's our inventory levels at? We sold all out of this wonderful product that we plan to sell again next week. Well, we'll have to order more. Or what is our plan B? Or let's adjust. Or we have a big event coming up and I don't think we have enough staff, but we have the bandwidth here and the budget to put it in. This is budgeting, and this is planning ahead. This is what our role as a CEO is, but especially moving through the holidays. So taking care of your numbers and your finances and understanding where it is exactly where you want to go, knowing what you're going to sell to get there, knowing what you have to do to get there. That's called reverse engineering. And this is what we do. This is how we are proactive, not reactive. So this particular client, we were high-fiving on the phone. Her partner actually sent me a text a little while ago, and they're meeting with their bookkeeper and their accountant to put all the spreadsheets together and really have a deep dive look at their POS system. There's all kinds of ways to reverse engineer, and there's all kinds of ways to look at your business, but you have to be looking at your business. You have to be looking at the numbers, and you have to know where you're going. Stop waiting. Hope marketing is not a strategy. We don't want to hope 40 people come in today because that's the number we need. We want to plan for 40 people or 80 people or 8 or 12 or whatever the number is. So let's just regroup. I just want to remind you, we're not setting goals based only on last year's numbers. We want to base them on reality and what you really need. So that's just history. We're going to reverse engineer and protect our profits for this year. What is it we need to do this year? So we decide what we want left over is really, and after our paycheck, by the way, you decide what you want left over. You calculate your expenses, your sales, your inventory. You work backwards from that number. A simple spreadsheet, update it weekly, will help you be so smart and feel so in control with your staffing and your marketing decisions. And again, marketing, all of our sales, all of our marketing for the holidays, for the rest of this year, gets attached to those sales numbers. What do we need to do and what needs to be true for us to get there? So I want to encourage you this week just to take 15 minutes, if you haven't done this in a while, and write down your profit goals. Write down the sales goal. why do you have that sales goal? And you can go back and listen to some podcasts that I've shared with the profit calculator, around the profit calculator. Write down your main expenses going forward. Like, it's not that complicated. For some reason, a lot of us have blocks around the forward thinking of the cash flow and the management of that, but work backwards to calculate what next week's real sales target needs to be, and then the week after that, and the week after that. That's the number we focus on. That is where we're headed. That is our guiding light. That is our North Star. This is what we want to do. So I do just want to remind you, we have lots of tools on my website over at wendybatten.com. You can go into the Work With Me section, profit calculators there, the holiday boot camps there, the inner circle boot camps there. I'm not trying to confuse. I know I always say, if you confuse, you lose. There's a tool there that can help you. If you are not seeing the perfect success that you want to in your retail business, I want you to know it's possible to get where you want to go. We just have to go and take those tools and do the work. I mean, nothing, as our business evolves, so does our role. As the world evolves, so does our role as the CEO, visionary, and queen bee of our retail businesses. So what is it that you need to do this week or this month to move your business ahead? I also, and I'm, again, not to confuse but if you want deeper help, I am doing CEO dates. Like the last one this year, it's a half a day CEO date. It's on September 12th. That is you and me and just a small group of people on Zoom. We're going to go do it all together. We're going to piece together your entire rest of the year and into January. It's quarterly planning that we do. It's our CEO quarterly planning dates, our 90-day planning dates. And I'm telling you, they're freaking magic and they're really good. They work. So it'll give you a plan to follow. So there's that deep dive. There's just no reason. I mean, reach out. I'm like literally here reaching out, like reach out and high five. I want to high five you and I want you to just come and get what you need. There's so many resources and there's no reason to stay stuck if you are biased towards action and if you are ready for success in your business. Think a little bigger. You can do it. You've got it. Thank you for being here today, my friend. Next week, we have another holiday episode for you. We also have some wonderful retailers coming up on the podcast. Some members of my mastermind, my Level Up Mastermind members are joining us for a few episodes. And I have a few other special guests coming up over the next little while to help you really see what's possible for you in your retail business. So have a fantastic week, my friend. We will see you same time, same place next week. Thanks for listening.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you were here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.